Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Relationships. So, your partner left you and your child for their affair partner and went AWOL. 10 years later, they come back and want to get their family back together. What do? This one's from user ThrowArray32146. Ex-wife left for affair partner and returned after 10 years and asks to take her back. Disclaimer, I had to edit and curate some of the text because English is not OP's first language. Seeking advice on how to handle the situation. Me, 34 male. My ex-wife, 35 female, call her X. My neighbor, the affair partner, and my neighbor's wife, 37 female, call her M. Me and my wife married in 2009. We had our baby in 2010. In November 2010, while she was asleep, a message popped up on her phone and was a flirty message. I checked on her phone and it was from our neighbor. I went through every single message, which included sexting, sharing nudes, and even had planned meetups at hotels. This was going on from the first week into our marriage. I felt like my world crumbled in front of me. I took screenshots of every message and saved them on my phone. Next day, I contacted M and let her know about the affair. They were married for 4 years and had their first baby at almost the exact same time as we had ours. I confronted my wife and told her that I'm going to file for divorce. She started crying and everything else, but I wasn't having any of it. I also got a paternity test on our child, son, because the affair timeline was the same as the conception date. 2 days later, when I come home from work, our baby was crying in our bed and X was nowhere to be found. Then I found a letter where she tells me that she did not love me and that she had left with the affair partner and to not contact them. I knew this was coming, but I couldn't believe that a mother would leave her child, who was about 6 months old, alone and run off with her lover. I then went to M's house. She had received the same letter from her husband. I felt sorry for her as she was going through postpartum depression, had her baby just a few months ago and was left alone. Also, the paternity test result came back and he was my son. I tried to contact X's family, but they also didn't know where she was and were shocked by her behavior. Her father even said that if she ever came back, she would not be allowed to enter their house. They basically disowned her. M was very supportive. She began coming to my home to watch both of our kids and even breastfed them, hers and mine. As time passed, we were like a family. My son called her mom and had known only her as mom. We also decided to go on dates. We got engaged a year later and married in 2013. We had our first child in 2015. We often discussed things about our exes and how we were often disrespected by them. We were a happy family. In 2018, my son accidentally saw a picture of my ex, picture after birth, so it included X, me, and him. So we decided to tell him that his birth mother, X, had died in a car accident years ago, and M took care of him since he was 6 months old. Fast forward to 2 days ago. I received an anonymous email. I opened it and it read, "I want to see my son and want my family back. We are not divorced yet." I knew it was X. I showed this to M. She started freaking out and asked me if I would take her back. I calmed her down and told her that she was an ugly past and I would never leave her. I would never take her back. Now I am confused about what to do. I will definitely not take her back. But should I let her meet my son or not? Should I give my son this opportunity to have a connection with his birth mother? Well, OP is in a very difficult position right now. But before I comment or we go on to the update, let's take a look at a couple of community comments with advice and then a short edit from OP to patch up some things from the original post. Raging Clayman says, "Go to the court. Get a restraining order. Never let her come near your family. Also, tell your son the truth." Just a Nun says, "Did you legally divorce? You need to clear that. If not, then you couldn't have remarried legally. Do not lie to your kid. This will set you up for a huge issue down the line. You don't have to respond to your ex. You have your own family now and you're happy. You need to make sure your marriage is legal. Be honest with your kid, stay happy as you are, and no contact with your ex. OP's edit. Thank you all for your responses. I have missed a lot of details to tell you guys. First is that I had divorced her before marrying M. I think she doesn't know, as she was nowhere to be found. I had full custody of my son, as X was nowhere in the picture, but now she is back, so I don't know if my full custody will be maintained or not. Okay, so that's all the information from the original post. Now, before we move on to the update, there's one thing I'd like to add. The divorcing the spouse when they're missing or their whereabouts are unknown is called a substituted service. This is a procedure that OP would have had to go through before marrying M, or else it's considered bigamy, unless he comes from a country where you can do that. This is something that can also be known as a divorce in absentia, or in absence. Anyways, let's move on to the update. Thank you for such a response. A lot has happened since the last time I posted. Also, I didn't want to post the update as many people in the comments thought this was fake, but till this day I am getting messages for an update, so I decided to update you all. So let's start by saying that we didn't have to go to court or involve lawyers. Some of you claimed that she would have no parental rights over my son as she had abandoned us years ago. To confirm this claim, I contacted a friend of mine who is a lawyer, and he confirmed that she could face a heavy fine, termination of parental rights, and jail time. I told him about the time period of abandonment and asked what were the chances of winning in my case. He told me that if a parent fails to physically contact a child for over a year, then in 99% of the cases, he or she is given a termination of their parental rights. I had a sigh of relief after listening to those words. I also joined therapy with my son so that I can tell him the truth about his biological mother. As I wanted to find out why she contacted me after 10 years, I messaged her father, who is still very close with me and gives me some good advice from time to time. Whether X contacted his family or not. Turns out that she had contacted her sister for money from time to time, for 10 years. But now, her sister is not willing to help her anymore as she was asking for more money. I asked him about her condition and whether introducing her to my son would be a good idea or not. He answered by saying she just has a minimum wage job and lives in a small apartment with 3 roommates. Listening to him say this made me feel bad for her, but she earned it. He said that she would be a bad influence on our son, so it's better not to introduce him to X. Next, I called her sister to ask her what she talked about with X during these past 10 years. She told me everything, how X contacted her only for money because after paying rent, she had no money left for groceries and other utilities. X never asked about my son, but only for money. I asked her about the relationship between X and the affair partner, to which she replied, "He is in prison for assault since 2015. I don't know why, but I felt happy upon hearing this news. I asked her whether X knows about the divorce or not. She said X has no idea about the divorce and she still thinks that we are legally married. I asked her to tell X about everything. Divorce, child custody, my new family, and that she has no right over my son. I told M everything, and she was a bit surprised by X's behavior. She never thought that a mother could be so careless towards her own child. She was shocked to hear the news about the affair partner. It's been 30 days and X has not contacted us again. Family counseling is going great, and we have decided to legally adopt one another's kids. I don't think X will contact us in the future, as her sister should have told her about her legal position in our case and that she would just waste money by hiring an attorney. If something happens, I'll update you guys. Well, it seems like a closed case to me. OP, I believe your ex is clearly just trying to get some money out of somebody here, and that's the only reason she contacted you. Maybe she was hoping that you would try to buy her out so that she wouldn't get in touch with your kid. But thankfully, you have everything sorted out and the law is on your side. So to you and to M and your kids and your family, here's wishing you all the best. And on that note, let's move on to the next story. Let's imagine that your significant other tells you that they are gay and you get a divorce. Later, they meet somebody they love and they ask you to be the best man or the best woman at their wedding. What would you do? This one is from user deleted. I, 36 male, have refused to go to the future wedding of my now ex-wife, 37 female, and it's really affecting the relationship with our kids. Thought I'd give this a chance to see if I can get some insight into my situation, as I can't see what I have done that's so wrong and what I can do to remedy it. So, we've been married 15 years, together longer, and have 3 kids. She has a daughter from her first relationship who's now 18. I class her as mine, I've done everything for her, and we have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old son. Now, she was upfront and honest when we got together that she was bi, and it was never an issue until last year. She said she thought she was ultimately a lesbian and had fallen in love with her now fiancé, 35 female, and it led to a divorce as I was unwilling to open the relationship or consider a poly situation. So we've been divorced a year, although we're still friends and have a good co-parenting relationship. Even though we're good, I am still suffering and I can't say I'm even close to moving on yet. The kids live with her primarily, although I see them multiple times a week and can say if I didn't have them, I'd have nothing. So basically, I got a call from my ex earlier on in the week saying she had to tell me something. That she's now engaged. I was shocked as F. Basically, she said they're not going to do the typical thing and have a long engagement. They're looking at getting married as soon as lockdown has been lifted, and they're on about moving in together as soon as possible. And there's more. She said she wants to have me as her best man, as she still considers me her best friend and can't think of anyone else she'd rather have there. Suffice to say, I told her I wasn't happy with it, and I'm not going to be her best man or don't think it's a good idea for me to be at the wedding. And definitely don't like the idea of moving someone in around my kids after a year. Now, my kids love the fiancé. My kids are always talking about her. Suffice to say, she was upset and we haven't spoken since. I mean, if that was just it, then I wouldn't be that upset. I mean, in what way does going to a wedding seeing my wife marry the woman who she left me for seems like a good idea? And to be the best man. My kids found out though, somehow, and are really upset. My daughter particularly really went off and said she thought I was better than that, and if I don't go to the wedding, she'll never talk to me again. The youngest two don't want to come and see me this week and also have refused to talk to me. I'm still close and have a relationship with my in-laws, and they've also been on my case saying I should go, especially for my kids' sake. Here's where I need help and someone to talk to. What do I do? I mean, the last thing I want to do is be false and go to a wedding watching the woman who I thought I'd be with forever marry someone else. Yet, I hate the thought that my kids are suffering, and the prospect of not having them in my life, even if it's for a short while, is like torture. Help! I gotta say, I feel like nobody in this story is taking OP's feelings into consideration. I don't think OP has a phobia that his wife is with a woman now. I don't think it's that. I think it's the fact that he loved her, he's not over the marriage, and now they want him to be a part of this new wedding? That's asking for a lot, isn't it? On top of that, somebody leaked this to the kids, and now they're trying to force him to go or else they're not gonna see him anymore? That's emotional coercion, and it sucks any way you slice it. I think OP needs to sit down with his ex and explain his feelings to her. Maybe she'll understand and call off the kids or tell the kids to, recapacitate or something, because what they're doing is wrong. At least, that's my opinion. Anyways, before we move on to the update, let's take a look at a couple of community comments to see what kind of advice they gave OP. 1968 Blade Runner says, I get it. It took me 7 years to get over the hurt of my ex cheating before I felt able to pursue another long-term relationship. So why she or anyone thinks you should be dealing with it like a man after a year is insane in my opinion. Especially after a 15-year relationship. Your kids are old enough for you to tell them the truth about how you're feeling. and how you're unable to deal with her request this soon after the divorce. If they can't accept your decision, then maybe use analogies they can understand about their own lives. Ultimately, stick to your guns. Your mental health is more important, and it sounds like you need to focus on your healing right now. OP responds, absolutely. I mean, I do not feel in any way, shape or form ready to start dating or get into a relationship yet. However, she's been trying to push me to date or even set me up with suitable women she knows. She feels guilty and thinks I would be a great catch for someone and deserve someone who appreciates me. Which is all dandy, but I just don't want it yet. I am trying to get through to our oldest so I can talk about this to her. She's 18 and the one they all look up to, and if I can at least get her to understand, then it might help the other two come around. Hanky0898 says, I also disagree with the others. Would you tell him to go if his ex-wife asked him to be her best man if she was going to marry another guy? No? Then what's the difference? OP has no obligation to be part of his ex marrying someone else. Well, OP said it in his post. If he can get to his oldest and get her to understand how he's feeling, then maybe this whole situation can be diffused and everyone will be understanding of everyone's feelings. Anyways, let's continue with the update to see how this whole situation played out. Basically, everything moved forward today. So I basically thought it'd be best to reach out to my daughter, so I messaged her something along the lines of, hey, I know you're not talking to me, but I think we really need to talk. To my surprise, she agreed and came over very quickly. I said to her that as she's an adult, I won't sugarcoat things now. I'm really not in a good place, and her mom getting married to her girlfriend and asking me to be the best man is a bit too much for me when I'm struggling to move on with my life. She said she sort of understands, but it hit her close to home. She came out to me as a lesbian herself. She said she's known for a while now. She told her mom, my ex, a while ago, but wasn't sure how to tell me, and because of the way I reacted to the wedding, she was worried I wouldn't be able to accept it. I reassured her that I'd love her dearly, and I'm proud of her for being honest with me, and stressed the way I feel about her mom and her now fiancé has nothing to do with the fact that they're lesbians, but because she's my ex-wife and I can't just turn my feelings off like that. I'd feel exactly the same if her mom was marrying a dude. We hugged it out and she said she'd talk to her brothers and see if she can get them to come around. Because they live with mom and see the fiancé often, they see her and love her a lot, so they don't understand. I said to her, I can't promise I'd go to the wedding eventually, but if I feel up to it, I may try, but it will be hard for me. While she was here, she FaceTimed her mom from her phone, and I got a chance to talk to my ex. I basically was honest, said I feel like she blindsided me and sprung it on me without thinking about how I feel, especially putting me on the spot about making me her best man. I said the invitation to the wedding was one thing, but that was a bit too much for me. She took it all in and apologized, and admitted it's because she's all loved up and her family are giving her all the platitudes about how happy and proud they are, so she got caught up in the moment. She asked me how I feel about it now. I said, in all honesty, it's a bit too much to consider at the moment, but I definitely am not going to be her best man regardless. She understands, and she said she won't expect that from me. But if I didn't want to go to the wedding itself, would I be interested in going to just the reception? I said, in all honesty, I don't know if I can, and she shouldn't expect me to. She agreed and said she'll leave it to me and will try to understand if I can't, but would be made up if I can. The boys were there, so I asked if she could put them on, but they didn't want to talk to me. Honestly, that feels like a punch in the balls, so I left it there before it started to make me cry and she saw it. And let the daughter leave so I could be on my own. I've never liked her to see me too emotional, especially cry. So there you have it. We've all made peace, as such, but there's a long way to go yet. Edit, a lot of people have said about her cheating. Whilst she did meet her now fiancé before we split, I don't believe there was physical intimacy. possibly an emotional thing, but I don't believe they got together until we split. Edit 2. A lot of people have picked up on not showing emotion around my kids. I do show emotion around them. I'm loving, funny, affectionate, humble, etc. And I do show sadness at things like funerals, but I generally don't like them to see me cry, especially at things like this. Well, OP, at least your daughter now understands you, your ex-wife understands you, and hopefully they can get your sons to come around and also understand how you're feeling. In the meantime, I hope you can work on yourself so that you can reach that emotional closure from your ex-wife that will allow you to move on and, if you want to, get involved in another long-term relationship with somebody who corresponds to your feelings. And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys liked it. If you did, go ahead and click like. Of course, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Also, here are more videos from my channel that you might enjoy. And having said all that, I will see you guys on the next video.